everybody. We have a special guest joining us today, Rachel Rohanna. Rachel plays on the Symetra Tour. And Rachel, thanks for spending some time with us here.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to do this.
Well, Rachel, obviously, growing up here in the area, Washington County native. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the game of golf.
Well, actually, I grew up in Greene County. I grew up in Waynesburg. I currently reside in Washington County, and I'm pretty lucky because I have golf on both sides of the family. Many of you may have heard of Rohanna's golf course. So if you've had the chance to play there, it's a short little public course, lots of small greens, lots of side hill lies. But that's on my dad's side, obviously. And then on my mom's side, her parents were both professionals. So my grandfather, actually, on my mom's side, was my swing coach growing up. And my grandma helped me out a little bit, only whenever my grandfather didn't know about it. He never wanted her to say anything to me, but she did. She helped me out a little bit with short game, and she actually was the head coach at Youngstown State for almost 20 years, where my sister went and played golf. But yeah, I grew up playing at Rohanna's, and my grandfather was my swing coach. My immediate family, my parents were both pretty good players. Pretty much if you didn't have an 8 handicap or less in the family, you weren't invited to any type of family outings. And we were all extremely competitive. and yeah, so we that's how I grew up. And like I said, I was lucky because my brother was really good, and so was my sister. So we were always playing games with each other and going out together and playing and bettering ourselves together. He's saying hi.
Hey, how are you? That's good. That's awesome. That's really cool. So obviously, Rachel, growing up, having the access to the golf course,
yes,
gave you some great opportunities to play.
Right.
When was it that you realized that this is what you wanted to do? This was, where you wanted to go.
So when I was in 3rd grade, I remember we had to write, what did we want to be when we grew up? And I put that I wanted to be a professional golfer. And I thought that was common though, because everybody in my family is a professional golfer. So, there's 10 pros in the family. I thought that was a normal thing to do. Everybody golfs. I'll just become a professional golfer. I love sports. I love competition. I knew I had from the get-go, I knew I had a really good opportunity because of the courses that were in the family. And I mean, we had a lot of, local stuff that we could play in. So I knew I wanted to do something like that. I knew I wanted to stay competitive and be able to do stuff outside my whole life. So yeah, I mean, it was from 3rd grade, and as soon as I put it on paper, it was a stupid little school project. I put it on paper, and it was oh, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to work at it. So like I said, we had a lot of good opportunities in junior golf to stay competitive in the summer. And then even on more of a national scale, I started national stuff, the Plantations Junior Golf Tour, when I was, I think, 10. And then I started doing Callaway Junior Series and the AJGA when I was about 12 or 13. Everything pretty important, I think, to junior golf. Obviously you want to have a good swing coach, you want to train the best, and you want to practice at courses that are going to better your skills. But there's nothing like competition, and just really, I mean, as many tournaments as I could play in, I knew that was just going to make me better and better. And that, that still holds true. I think, competition rounds as a professional now are just as important as going to the range, probably more important.
Yeah, I think you said it best. As you get out there, it's fun to hit balls. It's great to do that. But you've got to actually be out competing against people and seeing what the game stacks up.
For sure. Yeah.
Rachel, talk a little bit about, so you're going through the junior ranks, you realize, okay, this is what I want to do as a profession. How did you end up choosing Ohio State?
Man, it's, I went to, I think I visited 5 or 6 different schools. I was pretty lucky to have a few schools reach out to me. and I knew I wanted to stay close to home. The farthest that I looked was Wake Forest, which is, I think, about a 7-hour drive. But I looked at Penn State and Maryland and Kent State, and I wanted to also look at schools that I knew, they had a good team, and I was going to get better when I was there. But I think it's kind of like, when you find a new boyfriend or girlfriend, I guess, for the guys, and you just know, oh, it fits perfectly. Like, this is like, everything's falling in place. And when I went to Ohio State, that's exactly how it was. And I'll say that was my dad's line, by the way. It was like, oh, it's like finding a boyfriend. Like, I went to Ohio State. I totally fell in love. The coach was awesome. The team was awesome. The school was great. They had pretty much anything you could imagine, like offered class-wise or major-wise. And I knew I wanted to go into the ag program. So for Ohio State, the ag school is kind of on a little separate campus. So it kind of made like a big city, big school feel even smaller. So that was like a plus too, because I came from, a smaller area and I wasn't quite used to the huge city feel yet. But yeah, I mean, the coach, like I said, Coach Hessian, she was great. And our team, we had a blast. We were all best friends. We all got along. And yeah, so that's kind of how, and they were ranked really high up too. So that's kind of how I picked Ohio State.
That's awesome. And so you spend your time at Ohio State. Obviously, you get to play some great golf courses in Columbus, of course.
Right.
Ohio State's courses being pretty top ranked and pretty top. When was it that you decided, okay, I'm going to try my luck. I'm ready to go out on tour?
So when we actually switched from quarters to semesters, going into my senior year. And when we did that, I actually somehow dropped. I didn't need to take as many classes. So I knew I was going to be able to graduate in 3.5 years at this point. And I honestly probably could have done it in about 3 years. So I decided, I told my coach, look, I want to graduate in 3.5 years. I want to get my professional career started. And so she, I think it was hard. I think for all of us, it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made in my life. And I knew it was difficult for her and the team too. But I think they were, she was really excited for me. And so I graduated in 3.5 years and I turned pro, and it was kind of weird. All I did was like make a phone call and said, okay, I want to be a pro now. And they said, all right. So my senior year, I went to Q school. I knew I had earned Symetra Tour status, and I turned pro January 2nd, 2013, and started playing professionally in tournaments in February. So I thought I had learned a lot at Ohio State, not just about my golf, but about myself and how I manage things on the course. And I had gone through an injury and I was kind of still recovering from that, but I felt very, very ready to start my career. And I knew starting in February would be an advantage versus starting after graduation in May.
Awesome. What was, and I want to talk a little bit more about, your experiences on tour, but what was the biggest eye-opening experience for you going from playing collegiate golf to playing on the Symetra Tour?
I mean, there's just the competition is so much tougher. I mean, you have to shoot 72 or better. You have to be breaking par. You have to be patient. You have to realize there's another tournament next week. You have to, you're putting up a lot of money now of your own, and you feel like, oh, I don't want to mess up, but you kind of have to just get over that mentally, and you have to just, play golf. And, that was something that it took me a couple years to realize, like, look, I don't need to be doing what that person's doing or that person. I don't need to be doing exactly what I learned, and what our coach thought would be best for everyone in college might not have been best for me. And so taking things that I've learned through experience, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just experience, and applying them just to like myself personally, and finding out what works best for me is one of the biggest things as a professional that you can do. You know, like I said, you got to keep your blinders on. You can't be looking left and right. You can't be, you know, trying to copy somebody's swing. You can't be trying to copy somebody's practice habits, because that's just not going to work for everyone. I'm not somebody who goes to the range, and I never was. You know, there was no range growing up at Rohanna's. I went out to the course. I hit 10 balls to a green, picked them up, waited for the group to go through, chipped, you know, did a chipping game. And that's, I mean, when I went to Ohio State, oh my gosh, we had a range, and I said, we don't have to pick these up. And they're like, no, why? I said, I don't know. I've never just went to a range and hit balls and walked away. Like, I've always had to pick them up. So
Sure.
I've never been somebody who sits on the range and hits balls, you know, 100, 200 balls a day, unless I'm working on something specific with my swing, maybe. But for the most part, you know, I'm out on the course, I'm working on the course, I'm figuring out where do I want to hit the ball during competition, where's the trouble, where's the place to miss the shot. That's something that's so important. And it did take me about a year or two to really figure that out once I turned pro, that's the best thing for me and how I need to practice.
Yeah, that's interesting. You bring up some great points. I think a lot of our junior players, or a lot of kids that are out there, don't necessarily get the opportunities or understand how to work so hard. You got to actually be out hitting the shots on the golf course. It's great to be on the range, you know, if you're working on something, but the game is played on the golf course, not on the range.
Exactly. And that's why, you know, I always grew up with the, you know, telling myself it's quality over quantity. I mean, you know, a lot of people, and probably a lot of parents think too, they need to push their kids into going out to the range and hitting 200 balls, because 200 balls is more than 20 balls. But if you go out onto the course, say you're playing 18 holes, you're only hitting probably 35, 40 shots. And even then, I mean, it's only 14 drives, 18 approach shots, some chipping maybe. So, you know, like you said, just going on the course and practicing those chip shots and hitting tee shots if you have to shape it, or if you have to maybe pull a 5-wood out instead of a driver on a tee box, and knowing to do that and being disciplined to do that, and looking at your second shot and your approach shot and where's the biggest part of the green, and hitting towards the largest part of the green and maybe not towards a tucked pin. I mean, that's so important to be disciplined to be able to do that.
Rachel, one of the big questions, and I think a lot of people would really know, what's it really like being out on tour? You know, going to different venues, different things like that. What's the daily grind like?
Oh my gosh, it's quite you know, the traveling alone is tiring, and that is something else I've learned. Like I said, I kind of had an injury in college where it was my neck and my back, and you know, just the daily sorry, just the daily the daily wear and tear on your neck and back is hard enough, and then when you throw in golf and traveling is extremely difficult. So it took me a long time to realize, hey, okay, I'm saving Mondays for travel day and rest day. I'm going to leave, well, maybe Sunday night, leave a tournament site, travel to wherever I need to go on Monday, and then I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I can make this work. There's no worries at all. That's great.
So I usually use like Sunday evenings to travel, you know, arrive at my destination Monday. Maybe Monday nights I'll go out and I will like chip and putt, but I know I have to rest my neck and my back. And then Tuesday I go out and I usually do 18 holes of a practice round, sometimes only 9. The good thing about having played these courses now for 8-9 years is I'm so used to them, and I have the yardage books from previous years that I can have my old notes. I have a great caddy, which is a huge advantage. But then like I said, I'll play Tuesday. I go out Wednesday. I usually have a pro-am, or Thursday, depending on if it's a 3 or 4 day event. And then once competition hits, you know, I'm so focused on, reserving my energy for those 18 holes on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that I really don't do much. Obviously, unless my daughter's with me, then that's a lot too. But I think the hardest thing is really just the travel, like on planes and driving. I mean, sometimes we're driving, like this past year, I actually drove 800 miles down to Florida, arrived the next day, teed it up at an 8 a.m. Pro-Am, played 18 holes. I had a really good caddy with me, so he knew the course very well, mapped it out, and then teed it up in competition. And yeah, that was pretty tiring. But it's something you just deal with and you kind of get used to. But the biggest thing is you have to stay, you just want to stay mentally and physically. You don't want to get too drained quickly. So if that really means taking a nap for an hour between 12 and 1, or, just relaxing, going to like a local beach or a park, like a lot of girls do that, or do yoga. That's just, it's so important to do that. You have to stay healthy. You can't afford to miss a day just because you're sick or because you're tired.
Gotcha. Well, so, just kind of in closing, what advice would you give to a junior golfer that's thinking about the next level and, possibly playing on tour or turning professional? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I would say the first thing you want to do, like I did, is write it down. Just write it down and know that this is what you want to do. This is, your ultimate goal is to play professionally. And then, underneath that ultimate goal, you kind of have to write down, what are the small goals that I have to achieve? What are the things that I need to do to reach this goal? And while I may, I probably at one point did write it down, I knew in the back of my head exactly what I needed to do, and that was it. Some people might feel like sacrifices, but to me, I guess it never really felt that way, because I knew that it was something that I wanted so badly that it was just maybe an obstacle that I had to overcome. And, you're going to miss things, and maybe a friend's birthday party or a school dance or something like that. But to me, those things weren't important. What was important to me was my career, what I wanted to do. And I knew that in the long run, it would all pay off. And so that's exactly what I did. In the summer, I wasn't, at friends' house every night. I wasn't there till 10, 11 o'clock. I was at home packing up for the next golf tournament. I was taking care of my equipment. I was cleaning my clubs. I was cleaning my shoes because I wanted to look good out there. I wanted to feel the best because I knew I would play the best. And, little things like that are so important, and you don't realize it. And then on top of that too, it's, my schoolwork. I wanted to just be like, the best athlete when I went to Ohio State. I wanted to be a really good student too. So I focused on getting really good grades in high school. Plus there's even bonus money you can possibly get, athletic and academic money, which is awesome. But so I worked really hard with my grades, and, I did AP classes. I took, college in the classroom things. I earned college credits because I knew once I got to college, I wanted to graduate in at least 4 years so that I could, pursue my professional career.
That's awesome.
How much I focused on my career, because I focused so much from day one that I wrote down on the paper, this is what I want to be. But I did also play softball, and I think that's so important, is to have a balanced life. I loved softball, and I knew that if golf wasn't going to work out, my dream actually was to play softball at Ohio State. So that's another reason why I kind of chose Ohio State. I love their softball team, and I actually roomed with the pitcher, which was really cool. But I think it's so important to, if you really love something, you're also a kid too. Once you hit 18, you're responsible for yourself and your decisions. But, if you want to play basketball and golf, just do it, and then find a way to make basketball like complement your golf game or vice versa. Softball, I was a backup pitcher and I practiced pitching to gain power for driving. It's the same movement, and I gained a lot of distance that way. So that's something that's, I think, really, really important too, is if that's something that you want to do, if you want to dance, if you want to cheer, if you want to play football, well, I guess that's probably the same season as golf, but just do it and enjoy it while you can. And, use that time on the basketball court or softball field or whatever, and think of how's this going to better my golf game as well. And a lot of times it's mental too. If you become mentally stronger in another sport, it's going to help your golf game, and it's going to prevent over wear and tear on, with a specific, injury or whatever. So I think that's really important. That's something I always, preach to people too, whose kids are getting into golf and they ask me, when should they quit another sport? I just say, I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's something they need to do. And, nowadays you talk to physical therapists and doctors and they say it's good to be well-rounded and play multiple sports. So, that's something I like to make sure I tell juniors as well.
Yeah, Rachel, that was fantastic. I think a lot of good information, for our juniors. I appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully, you guys will get back out there soon. I know everybody's anxious to get golf going, but certainly a great career. We'll follow it. We'll follow it closely, and look forward to talking to you again soon, Rachel.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Rachel. That was Rachel Rohanna, who plays on the Symetra Tour, and we thank her for her time. Coming up next week on the Tri-State PGA Junior Golf Minute, we speak with Steve Wheatcroft. Steve is a former PGA Tour player, and he gives us insights onto his life on the tour. Remember, junior golfers, to interact with the Tri-State PGA Junior Golf Show. Email your questions to rgillespie@pgahq.com. This has been the Tri-State PGA Junior Golf Minute.